Hello friends. Welcome back again on the I Have a Vision Academy YouTube channel. In short, I Have Academy. So in today's class, we will be discussing the fiscal policy of Government of India. As we have seen in the RBI section that RBI can choose the two different stances. The first one is accommodative stance and the second one is neutral stance. So in the accommodative stance section, we have seen that RBI wants to increase the money supply. So it will automatically reduce or fix the repo rate to lower levels. Understood? So now the same analogy will apply in the fiscal policy. The fiscal policy is the sister policy of monetary policy. Monetary policy किसकी होती है? The monetary policy is governed by the Monetary Authority of India, RBI, and the fiscal policy is governed or changed by the Government of India. So the fiscal policy So it is a means of Government of India to accommodate, optimize the expenditure levels as well as tax rate level. So by touching this fiscal policy, the government can change and optimize two things: the expenditure part and the revenue part or tax rate parts. Tax rate से revenue मिलता है. So in this also, applying the same analogy as of RBI, we have two types of fiscal policies. The first one is the expansionary and the second is contractionary. So as the name suggests, the expansionary fiscal policy. In this policy, the government will try to expand the economy. How an economy is expanded? By creating demands, by generating demands, by cutting the taxes, so as to increase the disposable income in the hands of citizens. The government in parallel will also increase the public expenditure, like allocating more funds in Manrega scheme. So large public infrastructure projects will be built. कौन build करेगा उन्हें? Of course, citizens, workers, laborers. So these laborers, in worth of their services, the government will pay the actual wages to them. As the disposable income of these such kind of laborers increases in the economy, so their demand will get increased. As their demand will get increased, they will demand more from the capitalists like आटा, गेहूँ, मैगी, फैंटा, ये सब ज़्यादा डिमांड करेंगे. As the demand of this output goods increases, so factory will try to expand their businesses to accommodate this aggregate demand. और ऐसे ही पूरी business cycle start हो जाती है. Understood? So in the expansionary fiscal policy, मैंने सारे तो आपको करेक्टरिस्टिक्स बता ही दिए हैं, बट मान लीजिए देयर इज रिसेशन. So government will opt for expansionary fiscal policy in which taxes will be reduced. क्या बढ़ेगी? Government spending will be increased. Understood? So in such type of fiscal policy, at the time of recession, the taxes will be reduced and there will be more government spending on infrastructure projects so as to raise disposable income. And this disposable income will generate the एग्रीगेट डिमांड. और जो भी मैंने साइकिल बताई वो सब कंटिन्यू हो जाएगी. अंडरस्टूड? इन द सेकेंड टाइप ऑफ फिस्कल पॉलिसी, द कॉन्ट्रैक्शनरी फिस्कल पॉलिसी, the opposite of all the things that we have seen in the expansionary fiscal policy we will be experiencing here, watching here. So मान लीजिए बाद में आता एग्जाम्पल है, इन द कॉन्ट्रैक्शनरी फिस्कल पॉलिसी द गवर्नमेंट वांट टू रिड्यूस द अमाउंट ऑफ मनी दैट इज सर्कुलेटेड इन द मार्केट. सो टैक्स रेट्स will be increased, the government spending will be reduced, so the disposable income or the demand in the Indian economy will get reduced. और ये कब हो सकता है, अगर अब अभी हम एग्जांपल लेके देखें तो देखिए there is a boom phase. I have told you in the business cycles we have two phases, the economic boom phase and economic recession phase. There is no country in the world that can avoid completely one of the two phases. It means every economy will pass through these two phases. Understood? Now in the economic boom phases, the government क्या करेगी? अगर it will opt for contractionary fiscal policy, then it will increase the tax rates as well as reduce the government's spending. Understood? सो इसी के इंटर रिलेशन में रेस्पॉन्सेज of government of India in this business cycles. Understood? So now there are two kinds of government responses. The first one being pro-cyclical and the second one is anti or counter cyclical. Now the examples that I have given you in this part, the same examples is of counter cyclical response. In the economic recession phase, we have to counter the recession. In the economic boom phase, we have to counter the boom. Now you will ask, sir, why we will counter the boom? देखिए, excessive things, anything in the life which comes in excess is harmful for us in the long run. Understood? So economic boom will create such a huge bubble of profit making that when this bubble will burst, आपने कहाँ देखा ये चीज़ जो मैं अभी बता रहा हूँ, when the bubble will burst, it will create or have huge impact to such amount that the whole economy will probably get collapsed. आपने कहाँ चीज़ ये देखी है, अगर आप OTT प्लेटफॉर्म्स पे बहुत सारी सीरीज़ देख रहे हो तो CS वो 1992 का स्कैम जो भी है ना, 97-92 का, उसमें ये दिखाया गया है. उसमें भी क्या हो रहा था, बहुत बूम हो रहा था, बहुत ही रुपए आ रहे थे, बट दैट पर्टिकुलर फेलो डजंट रियलाइज दिस थिंग दैट द डे दिस होल मिथ, दिस होल प्रॉफिट बबल विल बर्स्ट एट दैट पीरियड ऑफ टाइम, देयर विल बी ह्यूज लॉसेज ऑफ ह्यूमन लाइफ. है ना, कितने सारे लोगों ने जिस दिन स्कैम खुला था, ये हेमंत या हर्षल मेहता का, उस दिन बहुत सारे लोगों ने सुसाइड कर लिया था. अंडरस्टूड? सो दैट्स व्हाई एक्सेसिव बूम एंड डीपेंड recession, excessive boom and deepened recession, both are not profitable or what say sustainable for any economy. So in the counter cyclical policy, economic boom will be subdued and recession, we will create demand in recession, and these are the examples of counter cyclical responses. If there is recession, we will reduce the taxes and we will increase the government spending so as to increase the demand, disposable income, and in tune the output of the industries will get increased to negate this aggregate demand. Understood? In the pro-cyclical response, that is opposite to counter cyclical. In the boom phase, we will try to increase this bubble, we will try to increase this profit bubble, okay, and in the recession phase we will do the opposite. It means in pro cyclical, what we will do in boom is we will cut down the taxes rate and we will increase the spending. So we want more boom in our economy. As I have explained to you that excessive anything in life is a bane, B-A-N-E, है ना. So that's why pro-cyclical policy or pro-cyclical response is not something to which we are looking at. Always, for a sustainable growth in an economy, counter-cyclical policies are used. Understood? मैंने आपको एग्जांपल्स बता दिए रिसेशन का, टैक्सेस का एंड बूम का. ठीक है. इन द प्रीवियस क्लासेस व्हाट वी हैव लर्नड, वी हैव लर्नड अबाउट द डेफिसिट्स. नाउ इन रिलेशन टू द डेफिसिट सम पार्ट ऑफ द सब्जेक्ट विल बी कनेक्टेड हेयर. अभी देखना. फिस्कल रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी एंड बजट मैनेजमेंट एक्ट ऑफ आई थिंक 2003 में था. एक बार चेक कर लेना. सो एज वी नो, इंडिया इज़ अ मल्टी पार्टी डेमोक्रेसी. इट मीन्स इन प्रेजेंट टर्म ऑफ अ गवर्नमेंट अ पर्टिकुलर party is ruling the India. In the next elections, maybe another party will rule India, and in the next elections, maybe a coalition government will rule in India. So there is no fixation of the parties that will govern India for a long period of time. So what happened in 2000s, the fiscal deficit of India reached up to 6% of GDP. Now this is a very high amount of fiscal deficit. So all these legislators in the parliamentary house brainstormed that there should be a certain kind of provision, as in the statute form, as in the act form, that will limit or put constraints on all the future governments to limit this fiscal deficit in a particular space. मान लीजिए 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So any particular number will be designated as an aim to reduce this fiscal deficit. So that's when in 2003 this FRBM Act has been introduced in Parliament and has been passed. Now there are number of provisions of this FRBM Act. ये आप अपने से एक बार जाके पढ़ भी लेना. मैं 2-3 चीज़ें मोटी मोटी बता देता हूँ. इसका एम क्या था? To ensure intergenerational equity. It means, मान लीजिए in 2000 and पहले ही मान लेते हैं 2000 to 2005 there is a particular government and it is not giving any priorities to this fiscal deficit. तो fiscal deficit हो गया मान लीजिए 11%. Now the upcoming future government 2005 to 10, this government has all the responsibilities to fix the lacunas created by the previous government. तो अब क्या होगा? Now to fix this fiscal deficit, this particular government will increase the taxes. क्यों? ज़्यादा revenue जब आएगा तभी तो उससे fiscal deficit भरेंगे. Second of all, the money which has been kept aside for the creation of capital assets, that will be used in fulfilling this fiscal deficit. सो यहाँ तो मैंने बस 5 साल का डिफरेंस ले लिया है. इमेजिन ये है 1950 से 55 एंड नाउ इट इज़ 2005 to 10. नाउ द गवर्नमेंट्स फ्रॉम 1950 to 2005 all are not giving any importance to the fixation of this fiscal deficit. It means only the government 2005 to 10, this has all the responsibility to fix the lacunas of the past history. क्यों? क्योंकि फिस्कल डेफिसिट पहुंच चुका है 10%, 11% मान लो. अंडरस्टूड? सो दिक्कत क्या होगी कि दीज पीपल 1950 to 2005 दे हैव लिव्ड देयर लाइफ एट देयर फुलेस्ट. नाउ दे विल बी गोइंग टू डाई एंड द न्यू जनरेशन हैव टू फेस ऑल द इनइक्वालिटीज, इंक्रीज्ड टैक्स रेट्स, the reduced public expenditure, all the money which have been devoted to the capital expenditure or creation of capital assets, they will be get used in fulfilling this fiscal deficit. So we have to cover this intergenerational inequality. Okay, so FRBM Act introduces the or ensures the intergenerational equality or equity should be there. ये काम नहीं होना चाहिए. Understood? And second is, I think, microeconomic stability ऐसे करके कुछ है. So to ensure the long-term macroeconomic stability. Understood? There are a number of more provisions in this FRBM Act that center's debt should be or equal to 40% of GDP. Then center plus state government's debt should be 60% or less than of GDP. The central government will borrow from RBI, will not borrow directly from the RBI, but they will take money from RBI only through ways and means advances, and this money that has been acquired from RBI by ways and means advances, this can be used by Government of India only in temporary mismatch between expenditure side and revenue side. So I think one of the question asked in the previous year preliminary exams, that the money acquired by Government of India from RBI through ways and means advances can be used in fulfilling the fiscal deficit. So it is entirely wrong statement. यहाँ से यहाँ कोई आप connection नहीं कर सकते. Understood? Now I have told you the debt part. Fiscal deficit क्या है? पिछले क्लास में बताया, the total borrowings. तो total debt है ये. Deficits and debts, are these useful in the economy or they are not? So we will kind of brainstorm on this particular question. So there was one more point, that you have to fix fiscal deficit less than or equal to 3%, and state in their own acts, by passing their state legislative acts, they have also fixed their targets to 3% of GDP. Understood? Now, if there is a deficit in the Indian economy, deficit कैसे आया? What is the cause of this deficit? The government has increased the public spending, and that's why there is deficit. So if I throw you a question that this deficit will create inflationary pressure or not, what will be the answer? Pause the video and think about it. Now I will tell you the explanation. There might be inflation or no inflation. Now let me elaborate on this point. The deficit of the India has been increased via the public spending. Now the public spending is increased, again the cycle will follow. The laborers will get more money, the workers will get more money. The demand, aggregate demand will be increased. This demand will increase the output of the industries, और क्या पता, industries will open new factories in which they will employ more laborers. The more laborers will get more salary. There will be more demand, and although at the last the output of the industries will get increased. So this whole cycle will continue. Understood? Now the industry part, this cycle in industry part, when the industry has 4 machines to manufacture Maggi. Previously, before this fiscal deficit, there are only 2 machines used for the manufacture of Maggi. Why only 2 machines? Because the demand which is there in the market, 2 machines are compatible or enough to fulfill this demand. That's why the company is underutilizing its assets. But now the fiscal deficit has been increased, public spending has been increased, aggregate demand has been created. Now the company, without any further cost, will employ 2 more machines to cater to this enhanced demand. Understood? And this is the case of किसका? नो इन्फ्लेशन. तो आपने देखा डेफिसिट ज़्यादा है फिर भी इन्फ्लेशन नहीं है. एंड द सेकेंड केस इज, ये जो मशीन हैं जो नीचे लगी हुई हैं, मान लीजिए ये है ही नहीं, इतनी सी फैक्ट्री है. नाउ यस, इट विल क्रिएट इन्फ्लेशन. सो वी हैव सीन द 2 केसेस ऑफ डेफिसिट्स. नाउ एज देयर इज अ डेफिसिट in the Indian economy, it means the government has to borrow something. क्या? Of course loans. So government can take this loan from in India, है ना? कहाँ से लेगी? इंडिया के अंदर से ही बैंक से ले लेगी. It means when the government is opting for internal loans, it means there is less money available with the corporate sector or private sector. Now this corporate as well as private sector, अभी मैंने बताया, they will expand their industries when this demand is created, है ना? But as all the money has been taken by government of India in forms of loan, it means a vacuum has been created, vacuum of money. And private and corporate players are not able to utilize the money because government has taken it. So this is called, मैंने आपको पहले ही बताया, crowding out effect. Understood? And the exact opposite of this is crowding in effect. What is crowding in effect? A situation is created where government spending is complementing the private sector growth. In that, the situation is called crowding in effect. लास्ट में बस इन लगा दीजिए, crowding in effect. वापस एग्जांपल देना पड़ेगा, है ना? हमेशा एग्जांपल देता हूँ तो उसी से समझ में आता है आपको. Now at the time of recession, the government is doing public spending. Why? पूरी साइकिल कंटिन्यू कर लीजिए अपने दिमाग में. Now the aggregate demand has been created, but as the government is already spending huge amount of money in the creation of public infrastructure, the government doesn't have enough funds to cater to this aggregate demand, and this is where the private players will come in and fulfill this demand. So government spending is complementing the private sector growth, and this is nothing called but crowding in effect. समझ में आ गई होगी आज की क्लास. छोटी क्लास रखते हैं बिकॉज थोड़ा बिजी हूँ और भी कामों में. सो आज की क्लास अगर आपको अच्छी लगी, इफ़ योर कंसेप्ट्स आर गेटिंग क्लियर्ड, सो प्लीज़ like this video, share it with your friends and subscribe to our YouTube channel. तब तक के लिए गुड बाय, जय हिंद.